Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. I'm Steve David, I'm your host. Let me introduce my panel. Jefferson George, welcome to Said Jefferson.
Thank you, Steve. Pleasure to be here.
And Anthony Clarke, welcome to Said Anthony.
Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure.
Glad to have you. We missed you last week, but you're here this week.
Yes, I am.
Okay. I woke up this morning and my mind was on my fallen brother, Larry Joseph. And he left us so sudden without saying goodbye. And my mind started to churn on what we're going to talk about tonight in the show. And he said, you know, there is a generation of footballers that we seem to forget. So, and I wanted to say thank you to them for their contribution. And that is a generation after the strike squad, before the Soca Warriors. So somewhere around 2000 or 96, going on to 2005 maybe. So, and I have some names, but I know you guys are younger generation. You're going to be more up to who those people are. So I'm just going to throw some names there, or leave it for you to throw some names at some people who have made contribution to our football that we need to say thank you to. And so let's talk about that. But I've heard
people or players?
Players.
Okay.
Yeah, footballers. Sorry if I say people, but I mean footballers who have, you know, they get left in the dust and they're right out in the sunset and nobody said thank you, and they had carried our football when we were in a bad period. Carry it, you know, put it on the back and kind of tote it like Arnold Dorica. I thought, because when I was sitting in the U.S. and I know Joe Public was playing in the Caribbean League, is that what it was?
CFU and also yeah.
I used to turn on my TV and get my popcorn and waiting to see him play, because I thought he was a special player. And he had some other players with him. So I had written down a couple of names, like Jemot, Nigel Pear, Andre Toussaint, Travis Morin, Arnold Dorica, Sid Gray, Stokely Mason, Keno Thomas, and so on. So let's give these guys some airtime and let's talk about how good they were and what they have done to help our football to keep the tradition going. So I'm going to open up the floor, barbershop discussion. We're going to argue about it, or we're going to agree on it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I like the list you mentioned. Obviously, and I know the viewers who tuned in, they're going to have their own list as well, right? So this is not by any means going to be a complete list, but there are quite a few persons who I think are worthy to mention. The list you called there, we don't have any goalkeepers in it.
True.
Right?
I was thinking Anthony Clarke.
Anthony Clarke. Yeah, good name.
Yeah.
Good name, right?
That's true.
So the thing about it is you mentioned that period. And if you, obviously we would draw comparisons and so on, but what they would have accomplished, not just by entertaining fans, but also getting results on the field. You know, Arnold Dorica, I always remember the Gold Cup, where we got to the semifinals. You know, he was absolutely outstanding. You know, really, really outstanding player.
But I am surprised. Right on that list, he has not called my present national coach, Angus Eve. Because Angus Eve scored a blistering goal from about 40 yards out in that game. That stands out very well, right? One of the best goals in the Gold Cup. Angus was a significant influence on that team, and Angus and Arnold. That was basically the duo. Like how it had Leonson and Latapi. It was Angus and Arnold. There was also Shulan David.
Yes.
right? Very influential.
Lyndon Andrews.
Right, Lyndon Andrews, Chubby.
Dale Saunders.
Dale Saunders, Peter Prosper. Right, we also had a lot of South guys. I think that was also the Hector Cyrus was also in that era.
Avery John.
Anthony Sherwood. Right, was also in that era. Yes, Anthony got injured, and he went to the U.S. to study as well. But all those...
Sherwin Julian.
Right, Sherwin Julian, great left back. All right, so all those guys actually, and they actually got good results. Right, we got good results. Clayton Ince was in that era, goalkeepers. I want to call the goalkeepers as well. Clayton Ince. No, Russ wasn't.
Yeah,
well, right. Russ was my year. I am actually pulling myself kind of out on Russ. We were, right,
before
coming from the strike squad into that era, kind of grooming these guys. Yes, we were the outstanding goalkeepers, but there were many more. There was, right, Luby.
Yeah, Larry Luby.
Larry Luby, right? Ike McComey.
Late.
Right? God rest his soul, you know, right? A young life gone so, right, so quickly. So, right, who are the goalkeepers, Jeff?
In that period, they had Trevor Nottingham.
Trevor was there, yes, correct.
They had some outstanding goalkeepers there. We always, again, it's a blessing, you know, we always seem to produce.
Correct.
You know,
very good goalkeepers. Yeah. And then you had a lot of South people in that team as well, because Trinto Peck Trintoc era had passed, and it was the Trinto Peck aspect of the oil company. You had a lot of Army guys there as well. Right, we had Pacheco. Right,
exactly.
We had this guy who eventually went. He was with Queens Park.
Jason Scotland too.
Jason Scotland was there. Jaron Nixon was there. Right, these guys eventually got international contracts, and right, McFarlane from the Army was there.
Abroad as well.
Yeah. So right, as we go on, right, some more names will come back to me. Right, from that era.
So let's talk about some special moments that these guys, you know, let's relive some of the special moments that they had, and so, you know, we don't forget them, and we can remind the viewers about special moments, because, like I said, Arnold always stand out, and every time I see him, it reflects for me that era. Peter Prosper, like you said, he was a striker I thought was excellent. I'm just weird like that, but I thought he had good striking ability.
Yeah, Prosper was outstanding. And again, he playing in that Petrotrin squad, you know, always a very... he actually went abroad and did quite well playing in Lebanon. Yeah. Did very, very well playing abroad there. Nigel Peer, you also mentioned him. And now there's an era, as Clarke mentioned, they were the ones touching the you know, making the more immediate transition from between that strike squad era to the era that we're speaking about. There is also those who on the other end of that. Yeah, Ronald Carrington.
Right, Ronald Carrington's, and we transitioned into that.
Right.
That.
And on the other side of that, you have the younger set, and that's the Jason Scotland's Derek King, who would have been still very active and very influential in this period we are talking about, but they would have also been very young and carried on Kerwin Chemotts, right? These are the persons who, Brent Sancho, right, who, again, being on the younger end, but they were also very influential during that period playing football there.
So in that period, and again, who were the drivers of the bus? When I say the drivers of the bus, I mean, who were the guys who carried the team? You know, you had to have 2 or 3 guys who, you know...
For me, the standouts would be, your Arnold Dorica, you had Angus Eve, and a name who, as you say, forgotten, Sean David. He went into the police service, and his career, I believe he got an injury. But
Sean or Shillan?
Sean David. That's the yeah. He played with Dorica at school and came out as a real midfielder. Very, very exciting midfielder. And I said he played with the national team as well. And sort of when guys like Dorica went into Joe Public to play professionally, he went into police, who had a very good team. But again, it's more of a career rather than, focusing on the football. And that may have been one of the things that sort of robbed us from getting the best out of Sean David.
Yeah.
Because he was in the police service?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of players as well who would have gone to police, and because, again, the football may not have been their focus, they got lost in the
There was an Emmanuel guy who was also
Cohen Emmanuel.
Cohen Emmanuel,
yes.
who played for police. He went to police. He was on the national team. I'm sure you never even heard that name.
Yeah, he was
classy footballer.
20 team that went qualified for the World Cup. Yeah, Cohen Emmanuel, Papa. Was the nickname.
But the police service wouldn't like what you're saying because, myself, Ken Morin, a bunch of us were in the police service.
We know that. I could call several other players who, and it may have come down to personal drive because, again, as I said, you're into now a career that
you have to remember.
You have to play.
Yeah, right. You have to remember at that time, although you had good teams, it was not professional football, and you were not being paid. So the good footballers went to either police, the army, or Trintock at that time because they could have gotten a job in Trintock.
Right.
Right. So those were the so-called professional clubs.
Right.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't police support his career as a footballer?
No, police did support all their careers, but I'm saying it's not just him alone. You would have other players who went in to police and army as bright prospects, and they got lost. Yeah, they got lost because those clubs also bring a lot of players as well.
I understand where Steve is coming from. In police and the army, although you went in as a footballer, the duties came first of the job.
Right.
Right? So unlike Petrotrin, where although you were working and it was it was not a national security job, right? We could have camped for a week and these guys had to put in their duties. Maybe they would have gotten a day off before a game to, but their duties came first. So some people then started to concentrate and move away from the hope of professionalism overseas and concentrate on, moving up in their job. Right? Hudson Charles, eventually became a sergeant, and Ross Russell and so on, those guys, because the dream of being a professional internationally, only a few have achieved that. So I understand where the switch could have been made, where they see, well, you know what? I came in as a constable, I came in as a private, getting almost minimum wage. I need to try to,
Work up.
push myself.
But
There's another dynamic to it. There's another dynamic where you, and Clarke touched on it, where I went into fire service, right, out of school, and you may have a superior who is on football. They're sports oriented. They would give you
all the
time you need. You get liberal leeway when it comes to your involvement in sport. And then you may get another supervisor who does not care about sport. He's telling you sport is not duty. That's a term in sport is not duty. So in these sort of situations, the army, the police, again, fire service, who kind of fell off now, but there's a dynamic that can really stifle players if they get under, probably a supervisor who doesn't really see it in that way.
But when we would have a 4 o'clock game, play the game, go back to the
bar,
go back to the station, and then has to do a duty at 8 at night and had to go out and work like an 8 to 12.
Exactly, exactly, yeah.
But we didn't care.
You did it.
Yeah, we did that all the time.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So in a sense, again, we looking at it here, not knowing the specific details, but as we mentioned, I see in how things can sort of get derailed from a person following their football career when they go into a job that is not, quote unquote, a professional football environment. You know, and these are some of the things that we.
So we're not saying that these guys, though, who went into service football die. That's what we're saying. The ones we mentioned, their football die because.
Well, at least in Sean David was because when at under 20 and Olympic team level, he was. As I said, the topic is, or what you had asked was, who were some of the people who really kind of ignited that era?
That's
and
the baton.
Sean David, straight out of school onto the national youth teams, he was amazing. He had a drag in slow motion that would, it was out of this world. Yeah.
What was he, a midfielder?
Yeah, midfielder.
Yeah. All right.
And then he went on to play right back as well for the national team.
I don't remember him.
Nice player. Yeah, nice.
And with the name David, I should.
Yeah, and then I think he coached Chablete at some point in time as well. After.
No, that's Sherland.
Sherland.
Right, yeah, so getting that one. Sean played with Malik in Malik, the glory days of Malik with Gary Glasgow, and that really.
Look, we didn't even mention Gary.
Gary Glasgow as well, yeah. Yeah.
And Stern. Stern was in that era as well.
Stern was in
of course,
era.
yes.
Well, Stern was in also the 2006 era.
Yeah, the last year, but he started there. I remember playing with Stern at Cornell's coaching school. I played with Alvin and the man Stern. And Stern and I alone used to come out, and he used to be striking that ball, Anton used to bring Stern and I out on a Saturday morning, and Stern would be striking it. So he came out.
Yeah, he was in
that era as well.
Yeah.
In the middle of that era, and then he took it.
But he continued on.
Yeah, correct.
But when he played for this, the 2006 team, he was like mid-20s, no?
Yes, yeah.
So, well, he had to be really young.
2006?
Yeah.
He was, he'd have been older than mid-20s.
Huh?
He'd have been touching on 30 at that time.
In the World Cup time?
The World Cup, yeah.
Oh, I thought he was like mid-20s. All right, and we had no goalkeepers. You guys are sitting, 2 goalkeepers sitting here, and nobody mentioned goalkeepers.
Yeah, we did.
Except for a couple. Anyhow, we have to take a break. Viewers, we'll be right back after the short break.
The person who emerged after him in that same mold would have been the hardest, right? Cohen Jamat. He was absolutely what he was. The Olympic team with me and under 20 played school football together as well. And Cohen Hardis Jamat was, the gem was his nickname. He was a joy to watch.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. We were just having a great time offset, kind of reminiscing on some special moments. Let's talk about some special moments some of these players created. I mean, they must have had a few that made you get up your seat and kind of open your eye or something. And so what can you remember? Any of you guys can remember special moments?
What I would like to start off by saying that these guys were students of the game. And the type of football, the attractiveness of football that you saw, you really, right, fans used to still come out at that time. And, right, they all also had individual skill and greatness that, right, they will pull out of the hat at a moment's notice, right, in any situation.
Mm-hmm.
Angasif was so great that, and could have read the game so well, that he would make, of course he learned this from Hudson Charles, right? but he used to make a run like runs off the ball, knowing that he's not going to get it, but knowing that he's creating a space for someone else. And he used to work so hard running off of the ball, even though he knew that some of the times that he wouldn't get the ball. And he used to talk to players and them, listen, when I make this run, I'm creating this space here. You go into this space and I will be trying to tell them to play it to you. And he used to work hard for the team, not just for himself. Arnold, on the other hand, had great individual skill. Also a brilliant mind, right? A brilliant football mind, right? When Arnold had good support, he would come into the midfield less, right? But he will stay as that striker to put balls behind the net. He at that time, who was the goalkeeper? Michael McCormick. Yeah. Another great football mind, right? And Mike used to command the defense and the team from behind it. He was also a great distributor of the ball, both by hand and feet. All right, so those were some of the great things of that. If I go to Peter Prosper, just give me one more. If I go to Peter Prosper, hard worker, always very fit, could score the goal. Not a great dribbler. I would also like to mention Hector Cyrus, right, at this point in time. Speedy forwards. Peter Prosper was a more clinical striker than Hector was, but those were some of the...
Yeah, to touch back on Arnold, and again, he would have been, one who really lit up this particular era. For me, one of the things I liked about him is the way he could play between the 9 and the 10 positions, right? He could play a really good center forward. Right? Again, he brought something different to Peter Prosper, right? Or maybe the other the other big strikers who would probably have in that era.
And I'll tell you why that was. He didn't like to post up because he wasn't big and strong like those guys. So he would drag them, but he was quick on the turn. So he will come into midfield. As he collects it on the run, he would elude them very easily that way. So how was his trick on not staying post up like a Leon St. Louis or a Stern John, taking the jam in, Errol McFarlane,
Errol McFarlane was, that type of player. So he was really good with that. The person who emerged after him in that same mold would have been the hardest, right? Cohen Jemot. He was absolutely, he was on the Olympic team with me and at under 20, played school football together as well. And Cohen Hardis Jemot was, the Gem was his nickname. He was a joy to watch. He was a joy to watch. I've heard stories about him, sweating in Malik on the basketball court. He'd cause guys to clash together trying to defend him. He was really, really smooth, elegant on the ball, elegant. He never looked like he was, breaking a sweat. He would walk the game. And he was one who, a lot of us expected him to sort of take over from in that same type of role in terms of his ability to pass the ball. He had a tremendous shot, right? Again, great football brain. And his football sort of petered out, so we didn't really get the full benefit out of him. But he was really, really good. Like Dwarica had opportunities to play abroad. At one point was courted by Milan, right? While he was playing in the US. So he was one that, again, really brought a lot of excitement and flair to that era.
So, like the strike squad and the Soca Warriors, they talked about, even 73 squad, they talked about because they had great tournament or something that kept it in people's mind. But this group, their big moment was what? The Gold Cup?
The Gold Cup and the Shell Cup of 2001, I think, somewhere around there.
So what's so special in these? Because I can't remember those. Eh?
Well, it was the only time that Trinidad in the Gold Cup actually went to the semi-final.
Yeah.
I think we beat both Mexico and the U.S. Right in that tournament. I think we actually came back. Right, we were behind in the Mexico game.
Yeah, we lost on penalty kicks to Canada.
You know, I hope the viewers, right, I hope the engineers will get it to show, right, Angus's goal against, I think that was against the U.S. Right, to throw the US out.
That was Canada as well,
about 40, about 40 yards out, right? It was Canada?
Yeah, Canada.
Right, it was Canada, about 40 yards out. And, right, a cracker. And if you actually look at that entire game, you will see, you'll wonder why it is that we didn't continue in that vein, right, moving forward from the flowing, nice football that, right, you saw there. I think that time the coach was Bertel.
Yeah, Bertel Sinclair was
right, Bertel was the coach, right, at that point in time. And
but we actually did, though, because we actually got to the World Cup in 2006.
Yeah.
So that was a good bridge. I mean, they had it, they kept it, they kept the level up.
But no, I'm not saying that because, right, we're talking about two different things. That was a mainly local team. I think David Naked
would have been playing out
right,
at that time.
right, would have come in, but the nucleus of the team was
Dwight was on that team as well.
right. Dwight was there as well, but the nucleus of the team was a local squad.
But think about this: 73 squad, local,
all local,
professional. Strike squad, local. 2006 squad,
correct,
was the only one that we had. And that was pretty local, and then those guys went out.
Yes.
So we always did well with local players.
Yeah.
And a few professionals added on.
Correct.
But when we call in professionals from all over the world,
and the entire team is professional.
We don't really do
You
it.
have to have the backbone of your team as a local team, either right defense and midfield, defensive midfield as local, and then you could have the attack where the flair could come in from the international. But when you bring the entire team as a, you know, a foreign based team, and they don't gel in terms of the defense and so on, you're gonna have problems.
Yeah, but I think that would depend as well as to, you know, what is happening in the local game. As we just mentioned, during that period, the local game was really, the level was really, really good. The level was good. Our local teams would go to CFU tournaments and,
even tournament.
and represent, you know, not just show up, but they would go out there and compete and get results. So it would have a lot to do with what is going on in the local level, right? The amount of players that we call in this period. Obviously, all those players won't play for the same team. So the competition was fierce. Jablity playing against W Connection
Police.
against, the football was Army, you know.
And one team was what?
Joe Public.
Joe Public. Yeah. So that was what, semi-pro we were playing? What the competition
that was semi-pro
like?
into the professional league started in 99. So you did have before that was a semi-pro league, actually called the semi-professional league.
And the Caledonia only semi-pro. Ashil and David was with Caledonia.
Right. Competition was really fierce.
Danulal.
Anthony Danulal.
Anthony Danulal was another great player of that era. Anthony Danulal.
That's right.
Great midfielder. I'm sure you never heard that name, Steve.
No.
I haven't.
Yes, you had Erasto Knights.
Erasto Knights.
I know Erasto.
Right.
I met Erasto in New York.
In New York, right.
But I didn't know.
Right. Erasto was with Caledonia with Jamal Shabazz. Right, Jamal Shabazz brought all these guys out from Malik and so on.
If you're talking about major moments, is it really Erasto Knights? Erasto Knights scored a goal from just in front of the stands in the Center of Excellence on Michael McCovey.
Correct.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Rocket. From just in front of the stands.
I was the goalkeeper for Caledonia at that point in time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Erasto is very skillful.
Very skillful.
And he had lots of skill.
Very skillful.
Entertaining.
Yeah, very. And could have hit that ball with both of his feet.
Right.
Same power.
Yeah, he was one who never went on again.
No, he went to
I know he went to the US.
Yeah,
I know he's still in the
to
US. But again, the national setup
team,
never really benefited from having him.
Having Erasto in the national setup.
I mean, I'm hearing you guys calling great players. So our football never really dropped too much. I mean, we had some bad moments in between, but we always had the talent.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of keeping it going.
And these players were able to go and play in the MLS. They had Travis Mulrin going on to play with San Jose, St. John, Keno Thomas, you know. So, yeah, we did have, again, the level of the competition was quite good. And that is what causes, you know, the country's level to be good. So then you can say, all right, I have... I'm selecting a national team. Obviously, you can build your team around a local core and then add, you know, particular pieces to it.
You know, you just mentioned Travis Mulrin just in passing. He was also such a great talent that could have held a team together in that defensive midfield position. Yeah. There. Also a great football mind as well. Yeah, great player.
Yeah. You saw him. Yeah. Now he was special, strong in the tackle. Again, a good leader. Those type of strong, you know, characters
great football mind.
You need.
Knew the game, could have directed the game from behind like an orchestra, right, like a conductor. Beautiful player.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? What do you think, though? I mean, we've lost this period now, COVID period. I believe, I hope not, though, that we're going to lose a generation of footballers because they've lost interest or they didn't get the time they need to put into the game to get what they need out of the game. And unless when we start back playing football again, we go 24/7 in football.
Yeah, it's concerning because, and again, it's something that we don't have control over. But now, if we were in that era and this scenario hit, I think it would have been easier to manage. But coming from where we were, you know, pre-COVID, coming out of it looks really gloomy to me, right? And a lot of work has to be done on an individual level by players keeping themselves motivated and putting the work in now so that when we have an opportunity to go back onto the field, the gap isn't that difficult. But to be honest, it looks...
I think we have to understand why we had that success at that point in time. We were still community-based football. We still had the Samoa Jablotes. We still had a lot of community-based football going on. So the pool of footballers that you could have picked from and eventually came to the bigger teams, you saw it. You still had South Zone being active. You still had the Eastern Zone being active. You still had North Zone being active, right? And I think that for our football to reach back to any semblance of how it was in those glory days, you have to get the best footballers from everywhere. The professional league has kind of stifled and killed football because you only want, right, the only focus is on those 8 or 9 teams. And if you're not in those 8 or 9 teams,
you're done.
More than likely, right, you're not going to make the national team, right? You're not going to get a call from the national team. And back in the days, we used to get, right, footballers from everywhere, right? We're not seeing the Caledonians again. And Caledonia used to produce a whole lot of players.
As you mentioned that, we miss Colin Samuel, right? Colin Samuel, he came from Mayaro, right? And those are the areas when just to add to what Clarke is saying, those are persons who came to prominence through their zonal teams, right? And the Eastern counties, we know they have been out of it for some time. And every other zone has, really significantly fallen off. Right? Last year, I think the South Zone had maybe 5 clubs. Right?
If so much.
If so much. And that's when I mean last year, the last time we played football. Now, coming out of this, how many of those clubs would survive?
Right, and those clubs now, it's going to get worse, because I understand that Club Sando is now in the Super League, anything. Okay. So they are not, and they are the ones who really held San Fernando football.
Right.
Then you had Giants. Now trying to get into the Super League. So
they've been in the Super League.
Right.
They've been in the Super League in the last.
And therefore those 2 clubs were the clubs that held San Fernando football together.
That's a good point.
But looking at, based on what you guys saying, then we should, when we coming back in after the COVID, we should come back into more like a community-based football league. And so whoever is planning to run for president, Clarke, if you're interested.
No, I'm not.
Then we should think about something in that line to bring back community football in some way, shape, or form, to see if we can get back that kind of vibe and to make football work. But, I am an old school boy, and I always think the league then was the best league we ever had. Let's take a break. Viewers, we'll be right back after this short break.
They are being directed by FIFA as to what to make priority versus what not to make priority to get football normalized.
Who's going to take care of
the administration of football normalized?
Who's going to take care of
At this point in time, we also have in position, we have a technical director, and I think the normalization committee allowed for a technical committee.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. All right, so we have players, we have talent. We just got to unearth them and bring them out and make it happen. So we're in a COVID period now. As you guys talk about all of this good stuff that I didn't know about, some of these players, I know about a few, but there's so many, and I know we have them still. So let's talk about how we can, or what should our football association or the normalization committee or whoever is planning to get heavily involved in football, how they can come out and make a change or make this work for us, because we've lost 2 years already in football.
Well, I think as any person who is thinking strategically, this period here that we had because of the pandemic could actually be a blessing if we use it properly, in terms of, well, we didn't have anything playing, and now you have the possibility of creating those same programs, community-based, right, that would be able to support proper development going forward. I listened to the Jamaican athletes, right, talk about, because everybody was asking them, what is responsible for the success, and not just flash in the pan success, but a consistent, delivery of high quality sprinters at the international level. And
athletes on the whole, not just sprinters.
Yeah, well, they were talking to the sprinters specifically, and their comments were, that is developed from primary school level, right? That thirst, that desire to compete, that desire to become a sprint champion, you have that being developed and opportunities for them to compete from primary school level, and there are no gaps straight up to the top. And when we look, the last point we closed the last segment with, in terms of your zonal football. That is something that existed. That existed in that same period that we talked about. We grew up playing that football from primary school. There was a Milo competition, and that we had that. But again, that has been totally decimated, and not much happened at the zonal and community level in terms of football, right? And if we are to look going forward, I think this period here of stagnation we can use to structure and put things back in the zones and in the communities that would help to push our football development forward.
You mentioned the normalization committee. The normalization committee is not here to get football back on track in terms of football. The normalization committee is here to get TTFA back into a good financial position as directed by FIFA. Right? Remember, the normalization committee is a group of businessmen who has not been involved in football at all, and they are brought in based on their capability to manage finances, right? Good businessmen and so on, and they are being directed by FIFA as to what to make priority versus what not to make priority to get football normalized.
Who's going to take care of the football?
Administration of football normalized.
Who's going to take care of football?
At this point in time, we also have, in position, we have a technical director, and I think the normalization committee allowed for a technical committee to kind of form. I think Anthony Sherwood is on that committee. Or
there's no technical committee. There's an ad hoc
advisory committee or something like that.
Yeah, but it's not standard.
Selection.
It's not. It goes in place for the selection of.
All right. So let me continue.
Yeah.
So the technical advisor, Dion Lafocade, right? I think he is the one to basically direct them and stand up for football in Trinidad and Tobago if it is
to set up
not
formation
by a selection of foreign coaches all the time, because I understand that they have selected a whole lot of foreign coaches on on the women's team, right? How then would our local coaches be developed? And our local coaches are very good coaches, right? Our women's team came to this level, and all the success they have gotten through only foreign, local coaches.
Jamal Shabazz,
Marlon Thompson, Marlon Charles, and so on. So Dion Lafocade needs to get some balls and stand up to these type of decisions unless he is making the decisions. So maybe these decisions, because I don't think the normalization committee is going to make those decisions ad hoc, because I just mentioned that these guys are guys who were never involved in football. So they are not going to come and make, somebody's advising them on these decisions. And the only footballing person who is there still is the technical director. So I must assume it's the technical director that is rubber stamping or suggesting or even nominating these people to come on board to be coaches. Because there's a rumor that they are also going to bring foreign coaches to replace Angasif. And I want to put that out there one time. I totally do not agree with that.
That's under the ground stuff, man.
Yeah, the guy has under the ground information.
Under the ground information.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're gonna stand up and make that happen, or what are we gonna do?
Well, Steve, unfortunately, I am not really involved in football. I am a football enthusiast, but I am not involved in football for these very said reasons.
Maybe we should call Dion Lafocade.
we need to call Dion Lafocade on the show and drill him here. I am sure that we'll get some answers.
Yeah, give me a good thing. Maybe I call him and ask him to come on, and then he can enlighten the viewers as to what his plans are.
Or what his role is in this normalization era, how much time he has, or
to get more information.
Yes.
Because we don't want to speculate and judge him
we don't.
wrongfully.
But I'm saying the only person that is there in the normalization setup as a technical director, who I think the normalization committee would lean on for footballing decisions, would be Dion Lafoucault. That's my assumption.
You know, given the title, I think he would have to bear some responsibility for what we see now in terms of the football setup and so on. But back to the, trying to institute something that will cause us to go back to where we had, proper competitive footballers and developing, great young talent. That is, for me, my concern. The persons and the figures who are in position now or who will come into position, that should be their, at least where I sit, that should be their focus in getting football again restarted with proper structures from the community level, from your school, right, within the zones. And, that would feed into, like you mentioned, into whatever our top-tier football looks like, right? We don't know if the model of the Pro League will continue, but whatever the top tier ends up being is really irrelevant if you don't have a proper system feeding
I'm glad
good players.
Irrelevant, the Ascension League, the Pro League, they are irrelevant because what is going to feed into those leagues? You may have some good footballers now, but then it will all die away if you don't have good footballers coming in. And what I also think needs to be, all the teams in the world, even the Italian team, the English teams, they have expats in their team, meaning, right, foreigners who have been normalized, right? Sterling was a Jamaican, came and is normalized. We have to open up our football, if we are having those leagues, to the Caribbean, to the Barbadoses, the right, St. Lucians, which Hobby Connection did, the Haitians, and that is how we're going to get our football. And some of these players could be
naturalized,
right, naturalized and get into our team, right? Everywhere else, getting a flare of talent from other people to make their football. That's not how England used to play football. English football has changed because they have about 8 naturalized people there now. Right? You have even the Italians and these people having people who have been naturalized from the African countries.
Jorginho is Brazilian.
Jorginho is Brazilian. Right? And you have a different flair there. So we have to open up our mind in terms of where this is, and that is how I will judge on who will run the next administration, based on the plans, the futuristic plans that they have to keep football an industry, no longer a game. Football has to be seen as an industry, like the oil industry, the petrochemical industry. So the next president, or the next aspiring to be president, I'm giving you a heads up. Start planning, start putting your documentation in place, start showing us how you are going to make football. And I am willing to wait 8 years. I am willing to wait 8 years after this normalization period to see football at its peak again, because I don't expect anybody to produce anything within a 4-year term.
But since you have the inside scoop, maybe you can tell us who the next president.
I have no idea.
Running for the next president.
Right, and I really don't care.
Nobody? You don't know anybody?
As right, and right, see, I believed, I'm not speaking about somebody's personality, but I believed that the David John Williams administration was on the right track. Before your family can evolve into whatever else, you have to give them some stability of a home, even if it's a rental home. And I think that is what his plan was. Let us stabilize. There are other aspects of it, but in terms of, he was concentrating on the youth football, the under-8s, the under-11s, the under-12s, the under-13s, for future performance. So I agreed with that. I know there are some other aspects of it as his administration, which is right sour with the thing, but I totally disagreed with what the United TTFA brought into football.
It would be nice, Jeff, to see United TTFA up against the John Williams administration for the next presidency. Wouldn't that be?
I don't. For me, I don't. For me, what I want is the plan, right? Clarke mentioned he's willing to wait 8 years, and for me, even the time it takes, for me, is not the most relevant thing. Right. For me, is what is the plan, right? If you can show a decent plan to grow football in a specific way in maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years.
Correct. The only reason I mentioned time, Jeff, is because Trinidadians like instant success.
Yeah.
So I was trying to tell them, listen, 8 years, and I could say beyond.
Yeah, understood.
But don't look for success before that.
That is what we need to we need to go into building mode, right? I will say Clarke into building you. No, but our foundation has been eroded, and we need to rebuild a solid foundation. Right? The thing about building a foundation is not really seen by persons who aren't into it, right? So which means we would have to set reasonable expectations, and I think that is one of the ways that we can get the public support. Because if you don't bring the public on board, they would end up being, your enemies. Right?
Bring the public on board with what?
With the plan. With the plan.
The public really don't care about the plan.
This is what I'm saying. Football, sports in general, it's driven by fans. That is what drives sports.
Right.
And the thing about it is, one of the things, for me, if I have to put a critique to the John Williams administration, is the lack of communication with the support base. Right now, there are persons who will support you regardless, and those are the people. They will always be on your side. But again, at the end of the day, there are persons who, on the other side of that, will not support you, regardless of what you do. Right. Those are not the people you're working for either.
Let me ask you a question.
Let's not put this foundation in place. So when you have the persons who are logical, who are supporters, looking to see what is being done, and want to see a logical process in place, I think those are the ones that we need.
Let me ask you this. Who is the president of the U.S. Soccer?
I can't remember.
Right, that's my point, right there. The basis, what the fans want to see is good football. They don't care who the president is, because most of the times you don't know, who the president is. So if things are put in place, the buying that you're looking for, the fans want to see good football in South, good footballs in North, good footballs in East, good footballs in West. No, wait, hear me out. Let me finish.
It's a long-term plan, so they will not see good football.
My point is, based on who the president is and their plans for football, it would be revealed on the field. And if it's not seen on the field, well then...
What I'm saying? So, yeah.
You guys agree? All right. So, of all the footballers that we've talked about, who are your favorite? I want to put you on the spot. Mine was Dorica, of course.
Yeah, Dorica and Chamat for me.
All right.
Mine would be Arnold Dorica.
Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Viewers, thank you for tuning in. You know we repeat on a Tuesday at 1 and a Saturday at 1. ACTN, thank you for the opportunity. And we have a Facebook page, you can check us out. And we have an email address, theologiantt@gmail.com, where you can drop us a line. This show has ended. Go in peace. I'm Steve David.